So how's everybody doing today? Excellent. So as Colin said, I'm Mike Aruflo. I'm an enterprise architect. I work in the office of CIO, supporting the United Healthcare business. So I'm very excited to be with you today for the first ever How to Pitch the Fortune 500. So can we get a round of applause? Awesome. So when I spoke to Shalisa, the executive director of Beta, about what can we do as Optum, as a first-time strategic partner for Beta and Twin Cities Startup Week. What can we do to help make the event of the week successful? And so we brainstormed all these different topics, and what do you think came up as the #1 need for startups within the Twin Cities? Exactly. Took like 2 seconds, right? So I'm like, well, okay, so how can we help with that? So like, what about setting up a pitch event, right? And she's like, yeah, that's a good idea. They'll definitely want to do that. But we've got, on the schedule, we've got a lot of successful pitch events. But then when I looked at the pitch events, I'm like, they're all pitching to VCs. And I'm like, that's great, because venture capital, you need that, and that's an important part of the ecosystem. But there's also another important part of the ecosystem, which are the Fortune 500 companies that live in the Twin Cities. And we have a lot here. We're blessed with that. And so I'm like, well, how about we set up an event that allows startup companies to live pitch the 3 main accelerators within United Health Group? And she's like, we want that. So that's what we're going to do. So a little bit of a walkthrough about how this event's going to work out. We've selected 3 startups, and they're all terrific. Their founders have agreed to pitch. Also, I've got agreements from the 3 major areas within UHG that meet and talk to different startup companies. 1 from Optum, 1 from and 2 from United Healthcare. So I'd like to bring on stage those directors. So if you give me a warm applause, those 3 directors. First one, Greg McGee. He's the director of innovation, so he works in UHC with me. Clayton Burke. He is the director of the UHC Accelerator. And last but certainly not least, Miles Bloomenkranz, and he is the director of Optum Startup Studio. Okay. Do you guys want to say anything? No?
We can just get
Bring it to me.
Excited to be here.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thanks for coming.
I don't know if we can represent all 500 of the companies, but hopefully this is good feedback.
That's good.
Okay. All right. Absolutely. This is from my own knowledge, it's the first time this kind of has been structured in Startup Week history. So pitching to this group, all 3 at once. So it's kind of you're part of the history. So and if we have time at the end, I'm going to leave time for questions from the audience. Okay. So on stage now, I'm going to welcome the first startup, and I'll introduce them. They're going to talk about how to eliminate the burden of employee benefits, Sabco Software. So give a warm applause to Joe and DeAndre.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Is my mic on? Okay. Awesome. All right, hello. I am DeAndre Mason, CEO of Sabco Software. Here with me today is my other co-founder, Joseph Gagnon. So Sabco Software works with brokers and employers that have supplemental insurance plans. We're helping bridge the gap between HR and payroll systems, eliminating the burden of the employee benefits administration process today. So we know insurance is daunting and employee benefits can be a nightmare. We provide a solution that makes it easy and simple. All right, so behind me, I have a picture of a check and a pay stub. So we've all worked for an employer at some point of our lives, which we've all received one of these checks. And on that paycheck, our employer is responsible for administrating and properly deducting for our benefits. However, our code block analysis shows that 1 in 4 companies are incorrectly deducting from their employees' paychecks around $8,600 a month in whole. The 204 unique supplemental plan groups that we looked at, 52 of them were incorrectly deducting, and that's a 25.5% inaccuracy rate. due to many factors in the employee benefits process today, putting them at financial and reputational risk. So today, the self-administration system is a half-built solution, which it is a manual, cumbersome process to create these necessary carrier backup reports that can take up to 6 to 8 hours a week just to produce with no safeguards in place. In addition, one of the main reasons, if not the main reason, a company will leave and depart from their broker is due to a billing and an invoicing issue. All right, so Sabco Software has built a streamlined hands-off solution that automates the administration process while also having checks and balances in place to catch errors before they become a problem. Through the help of our IP, we can customize specific solution needs for our customers and provide broker and company analytics of all sizes. Our software solution has converted those 6 to 8 manual hours into mere seconds with safeguards in place. And we can produce a 4% increase in broker's commission over a block of business with higher retention rates. All right, so market space. Amongst our competitors, we've identified 2 types of categories that's offered in today's employee benefits world, one being payroll focused and the other being HR focused. And within those 2 categories, competitors are primarily focused on that pre-enrollment benefit side and not focusing on the post-enrollment benefit side. So they're trying to get as many people signed up for benefits as possible, while the upstream of enrollment is crowded and the downstream is neglected, where we're focusing in on. While we're focusing in on that, we're working with our clients month over month throughout the entire benefit year, making sure that each invoice is paid correctly and on time, leaving no room for potential mistakes. All right, so between Joe, myself, and our team, we have over 10 plus years of experience in the employee benefits industry, insurance industry, developing the knowledge of the complex underwriting engine rules. Also, later on, becoming full stack developers, myself and Joe, data analysts, taking our industry knowledge and our technical skills, creating a solution to a problem that has been overlooked for years. So we have a blue ocean strategy, meaning few to none are swimming in our same niche. So unless you have a DeAndre or a Joe, you won't be able to duplicate our software solution. It takes both the insurance knowledge of the underwriting complex rules and the technical skills to build the answer. All right, so today our product is providing invoicing, carrier backup reporting, employee level deduction audits, in addition to broker analytics and commission auditing. The future state of our product would be able to provide carrier analytics and auto reconciliation underwriting reporting from the employer directly to the insurance companies like UHC and Optum. All right, so a little backstory on us founders and Sabco Software. So Joe and I took, as I mentioned, our insurance knowledge and our technical skills and combining them to create Sabco Software. And Sabco stands for Self-Administration Billing Company. Pretty straightforward. Joe created our very own MVP code block himself, all of us coming together to solve a problem that can directly or indirectly affect each and every one of us who works for an employer, in which our very own CFO, Nick Devine, who's in the audience today, experienced this firsthand himself. So when he was working for his employer, he had a life experience which he had to tap into his supplemental insurance coverages, only to find out that his benefit deductions were being incorrectly deducted from his paycheck for the last 6 months. Not knowing this, Nick called his insurance company to see what he would be covered for and eligible. He was only eligible for half of the amount that he should have been. So long story short, even working for a Fortune 500 company, when you think everything is correct, you're still at risk of falling into that 25.5%. All right, so we would love to show you guys at UHC Optum that our solution can make your clients happy, also while directly increasing the revenue. Also, we're raising our pre-seed round right now of $750,000 and looking for investors. If anyone is interested, please reach out to joseph.gagnon@sabco.com. Or if you have any questions after this, please feel free, to come up to Joe, myself, or any of our teammates. All right, so there you have it. We are Sabco Software, eliminating the burden of the employee benefits administration process today.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you, Joe, DeAndre.
Yeah.
So, let's start the dialogue, guys.
All right, well, thanks so much, guys. I thought it was really good. I wanted to ask, first of all, you highlighted the team. I think there were 4 of you that I saw, and then some advisors. Of the 4, are you full-time on this? Are you working on other
think it's
things as
on.
well?
Yeah, so I'm full-time, and the other 3 are fractional until we need them and/or raise capital to roll them full-time.
Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
I thought you guys did great. I thought I did a really good job articulating the problem. You know, when I look at companies pitching, I tend to look for a clear problem, addressable market. Is it the right team to solve it? Look for traction, proof points, right? Give me reasons to believe, make me jealous of who you're working with, and let that be a proof point for yourselves. I think about scalability, right? So I thought you guys did a great job of hitting on the problem. I think the market map and competitive differentiation was super helpful. A lot of times people sort of index towards, I know this company that does X. Is this the same thing, right? So I think it's really important to proactively differentiate yourself. And then I like that you called out traction. Talk to me a little bit about your payment model. I think you have 5 pilots in flight right now. I think as an early stage startup trying to get into a large corporation, you know, the biggest challenge is to say, or convince me why I should take a risk on your company relative to some of the more mature competitors. So how do you think about approaching larger companies and de-risking that for them so that you have a pathway to some deployment?
Yeah, so with regards to de-risking for larger companies, our solution, first off, pricing model is ARR, so the companies pay a low dollar, like month-over-month subscription fee, whereas we charge the carrier or broker an implementation fee, which is a one-time fee per company per coverage cycle, like every 3 years.
Yeah, every benefit year.
Yeah, every benefit year to set up their invoicing, and then it's autonomous from there forward. With regards to de-risking for larger companies, like we're obviously open to white labeling the solution and piloting the solution in smaller groups while we move towards proof points that we're able to do a whole block of business for a carrier.
Cool. Yeah, no, that's great. And I think maybe something to consider is if you're driving accuracy, can you measure that accuracy? Is there a way to quantify that accuracy in a way that you drive pay for performance in some of your arrangements as well? I think that's one of those things that tends to resonate where you kind of put your money where your mouth is, right? And say, we're not just going to pay a fee and assume it works, right? But let me show you how it works. So maybe something to consider for you all. Thank you.
Yeah, really excellent job. Sort of echoing what Clayton said here, going to how you think about pitching a larger company, you know, when you differentiate yourselves from, say, like a Gusto or something, or Gusto, I really enjoyed that slide on market positioning and competition. One thing that would be, I think you should even just put on the slide is how we can take these 6 to 8 man hours and just turn them into mere seconds, and just, you know, put that direct value on the deck, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's a really great statistic to call out, and I think especially for larger employers, you see the sort of wheels start to turn about, you multiply that over how big an organization like this is, and you think about how that can have a really immediate impact and lead to real cost savings and just better employee, you know, happiness and retention.
Yeah, that's a great call out. Thanks.
I also think, again, awesome job, and really like the space you're in, and you nailed the overall. I wanted to say that I often look for some, you know, who in our space, at least on the benefit side, it doesn't have to be on the health side, but who in our space are you working with, talking to, because who like me, there's a lot of Fortune 500 companies, you know, don't want to be first, right? We want to be a good, solid second and proven by the time we get there.
I think maybe one other call out too is this a net new capability? Does this replace some of those competitors that you had on the market map, or is this complementary to, right? And how easy is that integration if it's complementary to existing technology that potential customers would have in place? So.
Yeah, so it's complementary to that because we do need the payroll file and an enrollment file, and we are not a payroll or enrollment platform, so both of those that exist in the market today, nothing will change. But we consume the base tables of the census from an enrollment file and the deductions from a payroll file to create the carrier backup, invoicing, and audit, variance audits. So there's no real lift on from a company perspective or change to the flow other than they're not manually trying to roll up the data, and we're guaranteeing that it's correct when it gets to the carrier.
Yeah, so currently today, those files exists and they're simple extracts, and someone is doing a manual process. They're taking in those files weekly, monthly, depending on the invoice, and they're doing it themselves. So yeah, like Joe mentioned, it's not big of a lift. We'll take those files instead of them, and then our software will consume it.
Sure. So I think to Miles' point, I think, yeah, a great thing to highlight in there is
Sure.
both, we're not trying to replace what you already have, we're trying to supplement it, right, and reduce the level of effort required to actually perform the task.
Great feedback.
On that note, do you have a clear answer if somebody says, hey, I already use Gusto, I'm really happy with them, what's preventing them from, if this truly is like a blue ocean market move, which I believe, what's preventing them from coming and building the same solution?
I think it's the complexities of the insurance underwriting world as well as data integrity. That's one of the biggest issues that a lot of enrollment platforms or payroll platforms name the coverages differently than the carriers, which right off the bat causes problems. And then the lift to follow the number of underwriting rules and how quickly they change is kind of like a job in itself. So that's why I think that no one has targeted the market directly yet.
And just to back up some of the things that were already said, but it'd be super cool to see a slide that says this is exactly where we fit in the process and in the work stream overall.
We have one, but it's kind of complicated to look at, but we didn't add it. But we do have a slide.
Otherwise,
On
we
other
invent
pitch
it on
decks.
our own, and I think here's where
Yeah.
it fits. And
Great call.
I don't
yeah.
want that.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Pretty certain I wouldn't be right if I came up with it on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a great call out. Just general note of like whatever you can do to show the product, right, or demonstrate how it works and, varying degrees of duration, right? I know this isn't a super long period of time, but I think it's just as important for people to understand what your product does as what it doesn't do. And sometimes without those visualizations for individuals hearing the pitch, it's hard to contextualize exactly what that is, right? So they may form an impression, right? And that impression could be great, and then realize when you actually go to implement it that what they had in their mind isn't what you were selling, right? So
Yeah, their perspective.
whatever you can do to sort of put it in front of people, I think is always super helpful.
Great advice.
Miles?
No, I mean, amazing job. Yeah, I think the biggest sort of convincing point for me is exactly sort of what we've been talking about, which is being so differentiated. And I think if you guys just double down on that a little bit more and think about, hey, we're different and here's specifically what we're doing, and you make that value prop crystal clear, you can even throw some dollar signs up there, say, here's, dollar amounts of work put in by humans, and here's what we're saving, and here's how it can directly impact your business. I mean, that's just, that speaks really loudly.
Dollar
So,
amounts.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a great call.
I guess, most important question of the day, though, is how did you guys come up with the name? So, backstory, as we were practicing the introduction, so these guys are coming in first.
Sabco software. Well, everyone knows 3M, right? Does anyone know what 3M stands for?
I do.
Okay. Well, a lot of people don't. They just think it's 3M. Yeah, go ahead.
Minnesota Mining and Manufacturing.
There you go. So Sabco software stands for Self-Administration Billing Company, which we're doing is self-administration. Our solution is in self-administration billing. So it's abbreviated from that.
I think the car thing is much better.
Yeah, Saab.
I kept saying
Not
Saab.
Saab,
Here comes
Sabco.
Saab. These guys know, Mike. Listen, it's Sabco,
Yeah, Sabco
not Saab. So,
Billing Company.
yeah,
All right.
that's great. We got some time. So there are questions from the audience, either for Joe and DeAndre or for any one of us here on stage. Come up. Mark, can you give them your mic, please? Oh, okay.
Sorry. So on the last note about the naming of the company, how important is for you to see a name and say, oh, I know exactly what that company does, versus say a Sabco requires explanation? Like, explain that to me.
Yeah, my initial reaction is not important. I think a name that actually explains what a company does is the exception, not the rule. So, and usually even, a name alone we're in healthcare, it's so complex that it's hard to articulate, in one or two words, right, what a company does. So, yeah, I would personally say not too much bearing.
Yeah, and I agree with Clayton, and it's hard now because you're looking for a name and a URL, and that combination can be super tough to land on for it to make sense. So having to explain it or saying what it is really gives you another chance to reinforce your message anyway.
Yeah, I think that matters more for traditional venture capital than it does for sort of enterprise sales.
Awesome.
Awesome, thanks. Are there questions from the audience for us on stage, or anything you heard that kind of strikes a note?
Thanks. One theme I heard from the Optum United side of the table was, I think I heard once, tell us who you're already working with, make us jealous, make us want to get into the game. And I also heard something about not necessarily wanting to be the first person in the pool from a risk perspective, but if someone else has de-risked it, maybe being the second one in the door to seize the opportunity. And I'm wondering if there's tension between those, like, knowing that someone else is working with a startup first, wanting to also be engaged, but also not wanting to be the first one to jump in. Because that could be a challenge for a founder. If you want somebody has to be first, but if everyone wants to be second, what do you do?
Yeah, since I'm the one who said that about the first thing, I'll just chime in first. I think, that's somebody in the space, not necessarily a direct competitor of ours, but somebody has proven and tested it out, either on a small scale, so not a primary competitor, or something else. Although, just because a primary competitor wouldn't preclude, I think, a relationship.
Yeah, and I think, trying to put on my how to pitch a Fortune 500 company hat versus my United Healthcare Accelerator hat, right? Where on the UHC Accelerator side, I'm thinking, how do we work better with companies at that stage of maturity, right? So that we can be first movers, right? So we can have line of sight and support and develop those companies. But for maybe the broader base of evaluators, right, who are looking at supporting large enterprise clients or our own enterprise, right, what allows them to get more comfortable with something that is on the earlier side of things. So I am speaking outside, out of both sides of my mouth a bit, but with those different vantage points, I would say.
So I have a question for you all about the risk to the company. Because I think about companies all the time, and they have all sorts of errors going on all of the time. And so do you have an example of a true risk or something that really hurt a company's reputation? Because otherwise I don't know that I'm going to make the investment. I know lots of corporations who just would pass it off.
Sure, yeah. Back when we used to work at the carrier in 2019, we did some reporting for them to try to determine how much these groups were underpaying and try to collect that premium. So we created reporting that in 90 days collected $5.3 million. A lot of that was supplemental, which means there were multiple Fortune 500 companies that had to pay out of pocket to cover supplemental coverages they weren't deducting for the last year or two. And yeah, so that was kind of our proof point that the problem was huge in the market, and then we went to the front end and developed a solution for the companies.
And a little granular, I won't mention the company's name, but there is a company we looked 12 months back. They had a contract of 6 years. We only retro 12 months. They were underpaying a total of $800,000 in the 12 months. That was part of the drop in the $5.3 million collected. They had to, we used their own data to prove it to them because they didn't believe it at first, and they had to pay that $800,000 back. And that's at the company level. That's not taking it from the employees themselves.
Well, so they paid the $800,000 that they would have paid anyway, right? So
Right.
Yeah.
So with supplemental benefits that are deducted from employees' paychecks, the company isn't paying that out of their own pocket. Like the employee is paying it every month or so. And when we go back and find companies that have not been deducting supplemental benefits correctly, they won't retroactively deduct like $200 from everyone's paycheck. So that's where they eat the top line.
And in addition, to add on to that too, what we did mention is if they're not paid up their premium, the carriers can deny claims. So their employees that are going in, like for Nick Devine when he went in and he had half the coverage, well, in some cases there's claim denials of their employees because they're $800,000 less. Yeah, the underwriting at the carrier can choose to decline it because they don't have the premium in house for it. So that's the risk.
Great, guys. So let's give a round of applause to Sabco. Doing a wonderful job. Thank you, Joe, DeAndre. It's always tough to be first. So is it a bird? Is it a plane? No, it is Bus Stop Mamas. So Mary Kay and Hillary, come on stage to talk about a jobs marketplace built for mom life. Please give a warm welcome.
We are moms. We are the future of work. I'm Mary Kay Ziniewicz, and I am the founder and CEO of Bus Stop Mamas. On stage with me today is Hillary Sonstegard, a member of my advisory board. Thanks. Are you like millions of companies who struggle with severe labor pains? Of course you are. Every employer is struggling with severe labor pains. Never fear. Bus Stop Mamas are here. Bus Stop Mamas represents the #1 labor producer in the world. We represent talent that is delivering the future of work as I speak. Whoa. You're probably wondering, how was Bus Stop Mamas conceived? I won't tell you all the details, I'll stick to the facts. So my husband was the stay-at-home parent for our daughter for the first 10 years of her life. And he, like many people who stay at home with their kids, was feeling kind of sad. He wanted to exercise his other talents, he wanted to be around adults, and importantly, he wanted to contribute to our household income. So he went back to work, and I brought my business in-house. My business was working with law firms around the country doing branding and business development, even working with jazz. So I brought my business in-house, and then I got to stand out at the bus stop for the very first time with all the other moms in the neighborhood, all of whom left very promising careers to care for their children, all of whom were waving to their kids as they took off on the bus. Many of these women had attempted to go back to work, to no avail. They got instant rejections or no rejections at all. In fact, many of them probably applied at your company and didn't get through. I knew that if the people I worked with had an opportunity to meet these moms, they'd hire them in a heartbeat. The problem was they never got through. They never got to meet each other. So we fixed it. We fixed it with a simple approach that is cost-effective and works for businesses of every size. Our fix is a high-tech, high-touch method, simply introducing employer to mom through an email introduction, just like a friend would. Employer, meet mama. Mama, meet employer. We remove all barriers so everyone has access to one another. It's simple. Our competition is steep. There are a lot of job helpers out there for employers. But the truth is, the labor issue exists still. They're not all solving the problem. Bus Stop Mamas is uniquely situated. We represent moms. We are 100% for moms. We are 100% inclusive of all moms. We work with businesses of every size and with every budget. We are not only supplying employers with talent, we're solving a big problem for employers. Employers are adapting their organizations to work for mom too. But that's not all. Employers gain access to the purse holders in the family. They are allowed to brand and advertise to our market of over 10,000 moms that grows every day. We have We have placed hundreds of moms, and we've worked with hundreds of employers. We are solving big problems. And that's bang for your buck. Speaking of bucks, here's how we make ours. We designed 3 pricing models to work for every business size. We offer a pay-to-post model, we offer monthly subscriptions, and we offer annual enterprise agreements. And we're actively working with all of these. Our team is composed of nearly all moms and 1 dad, and we are cooking with gas every day. When everyone wins, everyone talks. Everyone talks about bus stop mamas, and we're happy for that. Everyone's a winner. Moms share, employers share, they share their success stories, and we are so thankful for that. Walking in here today, I was blessed with meeting a mom who was hired not once, but twice through Bus Stop Mamas, jobs that she's currently working with. That fills me with joy. From the car seat to the bus seat to the driver's seat and beyond, Bus Stop Mamas has designed a sustainable hiring process that employers love. And mamas do too, and so do their families, and so does the community. I'm asking you today, will you make a decision to work with Bus Stop Mamas and solve your labor problems? Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mary Kay, Hillary. So love the capes, by the way.
Thank you.
Totally awesome. So totally.
Yeah, nice job.
Thanks.
And I was walking in with her and heard that person say that they had 2 jobs through this. Tell me a little bit about the types of roles you can help us fill within our company.
Yep, sure. So Bus Stop Mamas has moms with PhDs, GEDs, and everything in between. We are filling all different types of roles. We're working with Boston Scientific currently as a customer. They're hiring engineers from us. They're hiring customer service people from us. So, and everything in between.
Is it a geographic limitation? Are these generally at-home jobs? Tell me a little bit about that.
They're all over the board. So car seat, bus seat, driver's seat, and beyond. For those who have children, you might understand these markers as milestones. As our children mature and grow, so does our availability. So we have moms that are looking for all different types of work. We have moms that have babies that they're still crating around. We have moms that have kids in the bus seat who are now thankfully able to go to work during school hours. And we have moms who are ready to fly. Moms like your spouse and me who have kids that are driving and you're ready to fly.
Awesome. Yeah, great job. Love the passion. I love a little showmanship and pitches that can otherwise be the same thing over and over again. I thought subtly, but with some of the slides, just great poise, not losing where you were and keeping things moving. I thought that was really impressive. And I love the problem that you're solving, noting some of your partners, the whole make me jealous thing. I think that was great. I would, I think maybe to some of Greg's question, would love to know more about sort of the supply side of your marketplace. And I think you hit on it sort of at high level, right? But as I think about, and sample size of one when I hired recently and trying to figure out how do I amplify the message, right? Trying to find, large concentration of individuals who met the qualification criteria for what I was hiring for. And that took some work, but I had a sense for what's the scale of the pool, right? And I think that's probably the primary thing that we would be thinking about is what does this do? What kind of visibility does this provide for the role in addition to helping fulfill on your mission and otherwise, right? But to the commentary about talent shortage, how do you scale that pool? How do you recruit mothers, right? How do you differentiate yourself to mothers? And what does the size of that pool look like? If I pay you to post my job, what kind of eyes is it going to get?
Okay, so we have over 10,000 moms in our network, and our network grows every day. These moms are spread throughout the U.S. Most of our concentration is here in Minnesota. That said, we have moms throughout the country. Right now, we are growing strategically in new states. We're selecting these states by the number of moms. We already have some traction. And honestly, our traction has been all word of mouth because we've been growing with 0 marketing dollars. And our growth has been very impressive. Moms talk. When moms love something, they share it with their friends, but so do the employers. We have had so much growth, all organic, because of people talking. That said, we do a lot of social media outreach. We have media that gives us a lot of attention. We recently, as I mentioned, opened Ohio. We have an employer there, a large employer, Discount Drug Mart, that hires people throughout the state, and that is helping our mamas grow. We work with another company in the healthcare space that they will give us a heads up. We are moving into upstate New York, and we'll go hustle moms. We'll hustle them with our social media outreach, and we'll ask our moms. We have an ambassador program where our moms are so passionate as me, about what we're doing, because we're solving a big problem for her, and we're solving a big problem for employers. So the word spreads, to answer your question, but we plan to do real targeted marketing efforts as our budget grows, which we hope it does very soon.
Great. And maybe just to the outcomes, traction, reasons to believe, so, and the 10,000 I think would be great to include in materials, right, or consider how do you proactively place that. I think, you don't always get to the in-person pitch, so how can you make sure materials stand on their own with some of those key questions that are going to come up? And I know this may be a different scenario than the materials that you typically send, so acknowledge that. And then sort of success on placing moms into these roles. So 10,000 moms, how successful are you at taking an employer's job posting and getting a mom plugged in and employed for that role?
Yeah, so we have a lot of decks, so I'll send you a lot more. Yes, we have a lot of stories about successful hires. We know, and we've been collecting a lot of data over the last 3 years. So we launched in 2019, and it's been a wild ride with COVID, interrupting our stream of traction. We thought 2020 we're going to soar. We continued to grow, but our bus seat mamas were really strapped. They were cooking, cleaning, masking, sanitizing, and teaching their kids around the clock. They didn't have time to work. That said, we continue to grow. So how are we matching up businesses? How successful are we? We know job descriptions matter. Job descriptions matter, corporate guys, they matter. How we're communicating what we need matters to when mom clicks. We've gathered a lot of data around this. We know when a job is going to get clicked. We can tell how many people are going to be attracted to that position by the words you use. So we are helping employers, and what we offer in our subscription and enterprise packages is that insight and that data that we've been capturing and continue to capture, and building AI into our system that helps employers build better job descriptions. We know employers want her back. They tell us that every day. In fact, that's why Boston Scientific works with us. They want her back. They understand what a big part of their bottom line is dependent on getting her back, on keeping her. So they work with us on doing that.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, really great presentation, and
Thanks.
that's amazing that you've had that kind of organic growth. I mean, that sort of speaks to your mission and your story that you're telling. So that's fantastic. I suppose when thinking about how you're selling this in an enterprise context, you might be faced with a meeting with an HR head. What would you say to them in terms of how we're bringing a specific edge to your job in terms of filling roles that maybe Indeed can provide? One of them clearly seems to be we have a really high quality candidate base, and our retention is good, and we're collecting all this data about how we're, outpacing, candidates from Indeed or whatever job board you want to say. So I guess maybe two questions. One, if you had to put some metrics to this of, hey, we're better than X, Y, and Z because of all this data that we're collecting, and we can prove it. What would you say, in terms of bringing that data forward, and then what, I guess, other, key points would you address with that, theoretical HR person to say, here's why we're different?
So I think I understand the question. We make HR people heroes. So that is our value proposition to the HR. They have access to people who none of their competition has access to. Our process is different than any other process. That can occasionally be a barrier of entry. It's important to us to really have good communication with the employer, meaning our entry point for every employer is not necessarily HR. Our entry point at Boston Scientific was a business line manager. When success came his way, he told HR. He proved our model. That is often our best way to enter into an organization, is to prove our effectiveness. And then HR, who is usually typically burdened with so many roles that they need to place, it's a little more challenging for them to take a risk with a new tool. Kind of similar to the question somebody asked for the last team was, how do you get the first person? For us, oftentimes our champion into a company is outside of HR, who hands it to HR with a success story and says, we just got 30 exceptional candidates for a job we couldn't fill for 12 months. We're solving that problem. We know we do it all the time. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, that totally answered my question. I think it's a really good strategy, and sort of, I like your approach of doing these enterprise partnerships and getting into business organizations that way. I think that makes a lot of sense.
Tell me about scale. I heard this morning that at United Health we added 50,000 new positions last year, 50,000, and about double that for hiring for attrition, and then there's temps and consultants, and it's a lot of people.
Yep.
So what part of that can you help us fill, and where do you sit there?
Well, when you guys give us a lot of money, we're going to grow, and we're going to have every mom in the whole world in our network, and that's true. How we can serve you now is we provide instant access now for any jobs that you might have. There was something I was going to say, and now I can't remember what it was. Oh, darn, sorry.
No, I have an idea, because I spent some time on our HR portal this morning just in preparation for this, and I counted more than 2,000 jobs out there. Do you go actively out to a company you're pitching and say, here's an example, here's 4 roles that we can find 30 candidates for you today, there'd be a match in our system? Because that stuff is public.
Yeah. Sometimes we have done that. We have a sales force of me, and that's been working pretty good, and we continue to grow. In terms of scaling, that's what I was going to say. A new mom is born every minute. So we have plenty of people. We need to get them into our network. And we know when we talk to a mom, when a mom learns about Bus Stop Mamas, she's there. She is there. It's not a hard sell for the moms. It's not a hard sell for the employers. The pain, that labor pain, is real. I mean, every day. So when we go to an employer, Honestly, I haven't gone to too many. They've been coming to us. I've reached out a few times. We have 70% repeat business. We have a tool that's effective, and we have a very small team at this point. We know that what we're selling is gold, and it's easy.
And that speaks to the reliability of the mamas that you're reaching out to as employees then, right?
Yeah.
Cool, guys. We've got time for like one question from the audience. Is there a question for Bus Stop or for us about this pitch? Oh, let's see.
If you can answer this, how many moms currently do you have as candidates that are available to be fitted for positions?
Yep, we have over 10,000 moms, probably closer to 12,000, but I say over 10,000.
Awesome. And is there a specific amount or goal that you're looking to expand to, or is that kind of the number that you float around and try to replenish as moms find jobs?
For moms, we are a two-sided marketplace. So for moms and employers, we're constantly growing. We will never come to an end of our mamas. We will grow forever. We want that number to be in the millions, right where the moms are. And moms are born every day, so.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mary Kay and Hillary.
Thanks.
I'll stop, mamas. That's awesome. All right, so our next person on stage doesn't really need an introduction because everybody here knows him. So the company TurnSignal won Beta Startup of the Year in 2021. So I would like to welcome J.S. Hampton on stage. There you go. Oops.
What a generous introduction. I appreciate everyone for coming out today. Look forward to meeting all of you. Please stop by and say hello after we're done here today. If you have any questions, if I go over the time here, which I won't, because when I was a lawyer in court, the judges never allowed that. So I won't do it to you today. Click here. We did not get the slideshow. Oh, okay. It didn't make it to our team. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. We can go without it, no problem whatsoever. My name is J.S. Hampton. I am the co-founder and CEO of TurnSignal. The easiest way to explain TurnSignal is that it's an app. Oh, well, there I am. It's going to be so much better now, I promise. Before I get to what TurnSignal does, I'd like to talk about why we do it, right? And so TurnSignal was co-founded by myself, Andre, and Michael. Andre and Mike actually have known each other since they're 3 years old, going back way back to their time growing up in St. Paul, and I met them in college as well. In fact, next month in October, Andre's getting married, Michael is his best man, and I'm officiating the wedding. It speaks to the friendship that we formed prior to this business and going forward in it, and we move at the speed of trust. And what are we moving towards? It's our mission, right? And our mission is simple, and it's three-pronged. Our mission is to protect drivers' rights, it's to de-escalate roadside interactions, and third, and most importantly, is to ensure that every driver and law enforcement officer returns home safe at the end of every day. So how do we do it, and what do we do? TurnSignal is an app that anyone in this room or watching online or anywhere in the 8 states that we're live in today can download. And when you're pulled over, you have your phone, and with the press of a button, it instantly starts recording that interaction, whether you're being pulled over or in an accident. And that is instantly being recorded and connects you to an attorney, typically in under 30 seconds, on the screen, just like you have a FaceTime call. And that attorney is there to de-escalate and help you through that interaction. They're available 24/7. Just last week, someone was pulled over at 1:40 in the morning and had an attorney on the phone before the officer was even at their window. You know, why do we do it? It's built by our story. Andre and Mike, like I said, they grew up in St. Paul together. They grew up actually with the Castile family. In fact, Andre went to J.J. Hill, the school where Philando was working at the time of his untimely passing, right? Fast forward to 2020, I think the whole world changes around how we're talking about so many things, right? Whether it's diversity, equity, inclusion, whether it's interactions with law enforcement, or whether it's just making the road safer every day. And that's when Andre, myself, and Mike came together and said, what are we gonna do to build a solution? And we call ourselves the Telelegal Avengers, is our text thread name actually, because my undergrad is in computer science. I then went to law school. When I was in law school, I was a public defender. I went and worked at a national law firm defending Fortune 5 companies. And I was also an adjunct professor of law. Dre got his MBA. He's a finance background, accounting, all of that work. Michael, tech sales, and marketing. We all left those jobs and those careers to build something together. And that's what built this story. And in May of 2021, we launched the first B2C product. And that product was available in only Minnesota. And we saw great success. In fact, we quickly moved into another state, and now we're in 8 states. And through that process, we built out the B2B model as well. This is just a quick slide reminding you there's 230 million licensed drivers in America. Guess what? Everyone driving also doesn't have a license, so the number is even higher of folks that are on the road every day. We talk about traffic stops in the 32 millions, accidents 9 million, and 3 billion in police misconduct settlements over the last decade. I say all of these to say because turn signal is a win-win for everybody. Drivers are feeling safer when they're on the road every day. Attorneys are able to connect with people in a real time, an emergency setting in a way never done before in this country, right? Officers are feeling safer as they approach a vehicle with a turn signal bumper sticker than they've ever felt before. I know that because I started with my brother who graduated from Alexandria Tech's law enforcement program. And then we met with 20 other police officers before starting this program to say what can make you feel safer as you're approaching these vehicles as well. And so that's what we're doing every day. We always talk about the personas of people on the platform, and I use alliterations a lot, and I use the rule of 3, so I'll say the 3 Ps are our personas that we talk about a lot. Parents, partners, and people of color. Parents, regardless of their racial or ethnic background, are handing keys to their 16, 17, 26-year-old kid, and they're saying, I want to make sure that you're feeling safe when you're on the road every day. If you get in an accident, I don't want that other person to convince you not to exchange insurance information. I want you to be able to say, the attorney said I should probably get your insurance, right? It's partners, people like my wife who's from Belle Plaine, Minnesota, who's been pulled over or in an accident without a person or building in sight for 2 miles. It's an unsettling proposition for her to be in by herself. And the third and most obvious is people of color. The genesis story of us 3 in and of itself. We know that law enforcement interactions are disproportionately different with people of color, and we're here to be there in those vehicles as well. And that's exactly what Turn Signal's been doing every day. And our pricing model is really simple and clear. If you download the app as an individual, it's $60 a year. If you make under $40,000, not only do we not charge you ever to use our platform, we won't even take your credit card information. We let you on for free because we don't want you choosing between buying milk for your family and choosing to feel safer when you're driving every day, right? And so attorneys, people always ask, well, how are you staffing attorneys? The vast majority of our attorneys pay us $1,000 a year to be on our platform. And they're here for 3 reasons. Altruistically, they want to use their law degree in a way that fulfills them in a really hands-on way. They can develop new business, and once you talk to that attorney, you're more likely to say, hey, I'm going to call Taylor Rahm next time I'm pulled over, or next time that I need a criminal lawyer in my life, or a family member. And the third reason is for branding and marketing. They can now say on their email signature that I'm a Turn Signal attorney, right? Speaks to who they are as an individual. So that's how our attorneys are on the platform. And then we work with businesses. We either do PEPM models or voluntary offerings for businesses as well, right? So those businesses can say, I'm going to pay for the benefit for all my employees, and I'll get to that a little more on the next slide. But when we talk to those businesses, we ask them to do one of 2 things. I say, I'm running a business, and I just mentioned 2 slides ago that if you make under $40,000, it's free to you. I also remember sitting in my living room back in June of 2020 and scrolling on social media. If you guys remember, that was June 1st of 2020 was that day that everyone was posting a black square. Everyone was posting statements about the death, the murder of George Floyd. And businesses were making a lot of commitments. And I was a lawyer at a law firm. I was the director of diversity and inclusion, and I was making those commitments on my law firm's website as well. What a great way to follow through on those commitments that these companies have by doing one of 2 things, or both. How about you subsidize all of those memberships for folks who can't afford them so they can feel safe driving every day, right? That's what folks like Blue Cross Blue Shield, Caribou Coffee, and the Minnesota Vikings do. Right now, if you download this app and you say, I live in Brooklyn Center, the Blue Cross Blue Shield logo pops up on your screen on our app, and it says, congratulations. You don't have to pay for Turn Signal because Blue Cross Blue Shield is here for the community in a real way in the state of Minnesota, right? Take that next step after that, the one of 2 reasons. The second one is providing it to all your employees as a benefit. Sometimes companies are providing health and dental insurance, and sometimes even pet insurance for their employees. How about we provide Turn Signal so they can feel safe driving their kids to work or to school every day before work, right? And a step better than that, just like those dental benefits, it passes down to your children as well. So just not the parents have Turn Signal on their phone every day, all of their family members that live in that household do as well, or they're off at college up to 26 years old, right? Now you're providing something to employees that really means something. I tell 2 stories around this. When I worked at my last law firm, we had a golf simulator in the basement, and I am horrible at golf to this day. But what would happen was people would say, Jazz, do you like working at that law firm? I'd say, yeah, it's great. The partner I work for is great, and we have a golf simulator in the basement, and I really love it. I wasn't saying it because I got below 80 in my golf swing. In fact, I'm still terrible, like I said. It speaks to the culture that my firm built by having something like that in place. And doing something like this for your employees can do the exact same thing for your organization. The second story I tell around that is I was hiring an individual in Louisiana. I was on the hiring committee of that law firm. We were in 15 states. And that individual said, you know what, I went to your website, and I scrolled through it, and I only saw one black lawyer on the page, and it doesn't seem like the kind of law firm that I want to be a part of. He was right, he was accurate. A lot of people are in that situation where they're trying to build diversity, equity, and inclusion without some there yet. Turn Signal isn't the solution, I can guarantee that, but it's a piece of that mosaic that can help build that solution as well. So during this time when people are fighting with the Great Resignation, when people are fighting with trying to build not only diversity, equity, but inclusion once you are there, let Turn Signal be a part of that mosaic as well, right? And so that's what we're doing for companies like Lurie or Salo or Catholic Charities United Way. If you work at those companies, you already today get Turn Signal as a benefit, just like all the other ones they provide to you, telling you that as a company, you're that most reliable, valuable asset within the organization. And below that line, you see all the brokers that now approach us and say, hey, we heard about Turn Signal selling a la carte. Can we do it too? Can we tie it into our offerings that we're selling to companies every day? And so now we're working with brokers as well. That's what Turn Signal does every day, and we do it for 3 simple reasons, which are our mission, which I'll conclude with. We're here to protect drivers' rights, to de-escalate these roadside interactions, and third, and most importantly, to ensure that everyone, both drivers and law enforcement, can return home safe at the end of every day. Thank you.
Thank you, Jazz. You want to start, Miles?
Sure.
Go with you first.
Yeah, what a fantastic presentation and an amazing idea. I can see why you won the competition last year.
It was the team, not Jazz. But
Congratulations, nonetheless. One thing I really, really liked was your market breakdown at the beginning, just sort of how you talked about, where you sit in the competitive space and sort of how you're very differentiated. I mean, from an investor perspective, it seems like a no-brainer, right? You have all these sort of aligning incentives, which I think is a really interesting value proposition in terms of how you talk about the company being able to offer this. And I think as sort of putting the corporate hat on, that's a really, really strong value proposition as well, not just from a DE&I perspective, but from the perspective of being able to offer that protection as an insurance mechanism of in the moment, right, like a AAA. One question I had for you, when you have these conversations with larger companies, when you talk about a pricing model, do they ever ask you, well, can I just offer this as if they use it, then I pay model, or is that something you've considered, or does that not really fit with how you think about your pricing strategy?
Yeah, it's a great, and thank you for your kind words at the beginning. That's a really good point around kind of how we price. We do PEPM for all the companies we work with today, but we just added that voluntary benefit because some folks are saying, well, we can't pay for all the seats in our building. Can we pay for some? We haven't got to the point of if you use it, you pay, and we have trepidation around that because we don't want someone getting pulled over, looking in the rearview mirror and saying, well, I don't want to spend the $60 in the moment, right? I don't want them to have that feeling. I want them to know that the money's already spent for them to feel safe in that moment. And so that's the reason we haven't gone down the pay-per-use model, but we absolutely, I mean, there's been 20 whiteboard conversations around it for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't have a ton of super helpful feedback. I think, sadly, as a healthcare person, I analogize this to telehealth, right? And I'm trying to put it in my framework. So as you think about that scalability and as a large national customer, right, I presume there's similar licensing requirements for attorneys across state lines and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about kind of your strategy for scale and what that timeline looks like if I'm United Healthcare and I want to offer this to all of our employees, or employees are everywhere, right? And so we want to make sure we can avail it to an entire population.
Yeah, we have several companies that have been inbound, one of which has 420,000 employees, and they're like, we want to give Turn Signal to them. When are you nationwide? When are you nationwide is what keeps me awake at night, other than my 3 kids that are 5 and under. But that's the question, right? And it is that scalability. The attorneys right now pay us, but we're actually moving towards, with the new round of investment that we just had, towards what we call the attorney backstop. It's kind of like the Uber or DoorDash model. We can go into a new market and pay 1 or 2 attorneys to be the 24-hour guaranteed answer backlog as we build up the rest of that paid attorney network. And then once that's there, we can let go of that secondary backstop. And that's what we're doing right now, is building that network, because it's just like the city of Minneapolis has 420,000 people in it, and the 911 center only has so many. But if they're paid and dedicated to it, they're going to answer the call.
Cool, very helpful. And then maybe one other comment is just, again, putting my UHC hat on, I would say, like, would love to see specificity in terms of who you're selling to, right? Are you selling to UHC as the customer? Are you selling to UHC as the owner of large enterprise accounts, right? So, because I imagine that approach looks different, or how you frame that up looks different when it's sell to you or sell for distribution.
Yeah, great point. And they are different. And so that's a really good point, that kind of the modeling around that conversation does look different. I appreciate that.
I thought you did a great job, and the questions were really good all the way through. I don't have anything additional.
Well, thank you for listening. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Great. Awesome. Well, hey, guys, thank you very much. Jazz, thank you very much. Turn Signal, thank you. Thank you all. You've been a great audience, and this is the first ever we're doing this event for how to pitch the Fortune 500. So looking for feedback, but you've been a great audience, and we look forward to seeing you next year. So thank you.